In coming days, we will see the greatest manifestations of the Savior's power that the world has ever seen. Between now and the time he returns with power and great glory,
Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, do the ends justify the means? Can you commit crime and wickedness if the consequences are good? Can the consequences be good? Well, the Book of Mormon says no. Joseph Smith says no. Joseph Smith has Article of Faith number 12. We believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates, and obeying, honoring, and sustaining the land. So, no. That excuse does not hold any weight. And so we have Mormon examples of apostates who did what they did believing this way, that the ends justify the means. Now, Brian David Mitchell, he was excommunicated from the church and then kidnapped Elizabeth Smart because he's the Messiah in partnership with Jesus, and it's necessary for him to start the kingdom with his little family, and he needs another wife because Wanda can't give him children in her old age. I think. Were they too old then? I don't think they had a kid. And thus the need for Elizabeth Smart. She's young. You know, Brigham Young had child bride marriages. Ends justify the means. So he's got to prepare for Jesus' coming. And so he kidnapped her and raped her. And then got punished for his religious freedom beliefs. Right? All Mormons know that this is a load of crock. Lock them up, give them the gas chamber, electric chair, hangman's noose, fire by burning alive, whatever. The guy's a loser, right? Because he didn't follow Mormon doctrine, that the ends do not justify the means. Ted Bundy, apostate Mormon from the Bundy family, branch off of Mormonism, was murdering little virgin Utah girls. Not really sure too much about his reasoning. Don't think it had anything to do with Jesus. But again, ends justify the means for whatever his reasoning was. And yeah, locked up. Criminal. You know, again, ends do not justify the means. You cannot commit crime and wickedness to justify the end results. Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow. Yeah, Chad had a near-death experience. Church came out and said, no, Chad, you can't have those experiences. You're wrong. You're going against the church. And then the tetrad happened, and Perry Packer Scott bit the big one. And all Mormons, not just Chad and Lori, were believing that this was a sign of the second coming. Jesus is coming. Well, Monson came out again. No, Chad, you're wrong. And so Chad, believing that he was right, and the ends justify the means, he needs to prepare for the coming of Jesus Christ. Monson is a fallen prophet. Therefore, he had to do it. Well, it wasn't really a crisscross. I guess they never saw those movies. Their spouses were murdered, and the children were dismembered. As Lori also was involved with that because they found her DNA hair on the tape used to bind the girl. And so, yeah, they're wrong, obviously. They're fallen Mormons, lost their way, weren't being obedient to the church doctrine. They're evil. Mark Hoffman, he found out the church had been lying to us about church history, and then got the idea in his head, hey, I'm going to forge documents claiming to be from church history, salamander letter, and I'll get the church to pay me for it. Yeah, the church paid him for it, and then kept it hidden from the church because they can't have it released. You know, he found them in a library. It was in an old book. Ends justify the means. He cons the church out of their con. Yeah, a disgruntled Mormon, just trying to get revenge. Evil apostate whore. And yeah, he tried to cover it up with murder. Got blown up himself. Rotting in prison now. Warren Jeffs. Yeah, that goes back to the 1920 apostates who left the church that had ceased to exist because the United States shut it down in 1887. The Mormons didn't really know, or were in denial. They never tell us when we are born and raised in the church. We're just told that the big, bad, mean United States denied us religious freedom to practice child bride polygamy. They just don't mention child brides. But yeah, they're apostate brethren formed from that. Apostate brethren, apostolic brethren. They branch off. They don't take the name which is openly available, because the church is deceiving them into thinking that the church still is incorporated. It would have been funny if they knew that the church had no claims to the name and took the name and used it first before Heber J. Grant reincorporated with that name in 1923. But yeah, apostate Mormons practicing polygamy now, because religious freedom, child bride polygamy, child slave labor, and all sorts of other murders and crimes, blood atonement, believing in the apostate doctrine of Brigham Young of Heavenly Father as Adam, who had child bride incest with his daughter Mary to have Jesus. Yeah. So Warren Jeffs, one of the branch offs, FLDS Church. Now he's the prophet of Jesus, of that child bride incest relationship. And he's practicing child bride incest marriages. Kicking out the boys, because how are the religious leaders supposed to be righteous and have multiple wives if there are other boys who need those girls too to be married. And there are too many guys, so you got to get rid of the guys. So they became the Lost Boys. And were committing crimes in Utah in order to survive. And then in court, the judge went to the church and says, hey, will you take these guys in and help get them back into society? Nope, we don't know them. They're not our church. We want nothing to do with them. So yeah, Warren Jeffs gets busted because of the SNAP fraud violations. The women were getting government benefits and then giving those cards to the bishop, which, they get the food and it gets dispersed among everybody rather than to the woman and their children, her children. It's being spread around. And actually the women and the children were actually being denied of the SNAP benefits. It was the leaders of the church who were benefiting from SNAP. So the federal government came in, put a stop to it, and found out about the child bride incest marriages. And Warren Jeffs is locked up. Well, obviously, because he's a criminal. He's an apostate Mormon. Couldn't be loyal and faithful and pay tithing to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which had been disincorporated and was finally reincorporated under Heber J. Grant. There's a Cox. I can't remember his first name anymore. It's been decades. Had a young family, Mormon couple. And then all of a sudden his wife goes missing. And everybody's accusing him of murdering her. There's no body. But he's being accused of murder. There was a videotape of the Walmart parking lot of her and some other guy. But they're sure he murdered her. And buried her body somewhere out in the desert. Never found the body. A year later, they find bones. Nope, not her. Decade later, they find bones. Nope. There is no body. And yet, he was treated as a criminal. He had Mormons come forward and testify to the fact that he's an apostate. Because they heard him give prayers and heard him give blessings, and he was dark, and he didn't have the Spirit with him when he said them. So obviously he murdered her. And even in, was it Oregon or Washington? He was required to have custodial visits. A social worker was required to be there when he was with his children. And so he'd been kicked out of Utah because everybody believed he did it. No body, but he did it. And now he can't even see his kids without somebody else watching and hovering over him. And so, one morning, when caseworker brings the kids over, kids go in the house, she has to go back to her car to get something, and then kaboom! The house blows up with him and his boys. So obviously he murdered his wife. Police interrogated his father, found that he had been recording child porn in his bathroom as he would invite kids over to play in the pool, and so they'd get dressed there in a little bathroom thing, and he was recording them. So he got punished for that. They were hoping that they could lighten the sentence if he would just confess that his son had murdered his wife. hopefully reveal where the body was buried. I mean, I didn't know. Never revealed. Did his time. He's now out. Still to this day, no body. Do the ends justify the means? He's obviously an apostate gore because his prayers and blessings were evil. And he blew up his kids with him in it in the house. So, anybody familiar with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Joseph Smith gave a sermon on the 19th of July, 1840. Brigham Young refused to publish this in his Doctrine and Covenants in 1844, and the year before he died. And so this remained a secret. Mormons didn't know about this until the church released the Joseph Smith Papers, and I found it. In there, he's talking about his parable prophecy that he gives in section 101, starting in verse 43. And then he goes on to say, "Then the enemy shall come as a thief in the night, and," one blank line, just refer to section 101, starting in verse 43, you can fill in that blank, "scatter the servants abroad. When the seed of these 12 olive trees are scattered abroad, they will wake up the nations of the whole earth. Even this nation," United States of America, "will be on the very verge of crumbling to pieces and tumbling to the ground. And when the Constitution is upon the brink of ruin," oh, you thought it was hanging by a thread, "this people," Mormons, "will be the staff upon which the nation shall lean, and shall bear away the Constitution from the very verge of destruction." So, Mormons went to the Capitol to do what on January 6th? The church partnered with the secret combination of America to do what to America? You have been following me, right? I've been doing these videos recently again. I'm the one who made this discovery. The secret combination of America. They had a membership book that was leaked. The Southern Poverty Law Center has posted it online for everyone to know. In case you don't know, the Southern Poverty Law Center warns everybody about hate groups. This secret combination is a hate group. And it has psychologists and medical doctors and Steve Bannon and evangelicals who are a part of the religious freedom movement. And judges. Yeah, these people put in judges. They helped rig the 2016 election. Steve Bannon. They've been causing chaos. They overthrew Roe v. Wade. It's this secret combination. And yes, the Scousins are the church's representatives. You remember W. Cleon Skousen, don't you? I refer to him as Klingon Skousen because of his space doctrine, because it's way out there. He did the series of the 1,000 years of the Earth's history, the first 2,000 years, because he combined 1 and 2 together. All he did was plagiarize the Bible and incorporate Mormon doctrine concerning it in there. It's worthless crap. All of his books are. He did The Naked Communist. He's preaching against communism. Oh, he must be a good guy. Yeah, except that he promotes Nazism. Not a good guy, and thus is a member on the board. He's now dead, so obviously he's in memoriam. I use associative memory now, because I had trouble remembering what the word was in that video. And so now his son Mark is filling his place to represent the church and the church's position to overthrow the government of the United States. But Joseph Smith says we're supposed to save the Constitution from this evil group of kingmen. Why are they doing this? Well, Jesus is coming. Joseph Smith even says, and it'd probably take me too long to find it. There it is. That Zion and Jerusalem must both be built up before the coming of Christ. So the prophets know this. It's in the Joseph Smith papers. They released it. They know it. It's got footnoted by Royal Skousen, who was a part of this project. And still, they are not adding it to our Doctrine and Covenants. Why not? Does it have anything to do with Joseph Smith doing a parable prophecy about the Last Supper? Who was in Joseph Smith's 12 apostles that Joseph Smith could be referring to here? Prophesying that they would murder him. And sure enough, they did. And so yes, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is hoarding money of tithing and everything else that they receive money from for Armageddon in the millennium. The first presidency of Nelson came out and confessed in 2019 in response to the whistleblower, following the parable of the talents, which is in Matthew 25, which is a continuation of the latter days, using parables to talk about it. And so Nelson interprets that as we have to collect as much money as we can, because we're going to give it to Jesus. And then the book I keep showing you, Way to Perfection, by Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. In that book, on page 290 and 291 in that edition, he says that Lucifer will attend Adam-on-Diamond and hand over the keys of government to Jesus Christ. Really? Really? Which I'm assuming there's when the church then hands over the money to Jesus when he gets the keys of government. Because it takes money to run a government, doesn't it? Don't want to go into debt, crash the economy. Is the church justified in teaming up with a secret combination as U.S. Congressman now, Andy Biggs of Arizona, Mormon, calling for civil war with some indictment proceedings that's going on now. Stolen documents that are secret, classified, not supposed to be revealed to the general public because it could, cause harm to America if such things were being leaked. And Andy is calling for civil war. He even references the Bible. eye for an eye. You actually misinterpreted both passages in which that is referred to, in the law and by Jesus. Nelson says Jesus was giving the higher law of child bride polygamy. But the law made it very clear. It's not just an eye for an eye. You have to also make restitution to show the fruits of repentance. And so if you steal something from somebody, you need to give it back, and you need to give back more to show that you are sorry and that you will never do it again. It's in the law. And so people have misinterpreted eye for an eye. So did Andy. So is this defending the Constitution? By overthrowing the government? So that Jesus can come to Zion with the church having restored it. And the church has to restore it from the United States of America, who took it away from them because they were committing crimes. And it was tithing crimes, technically. The child bride polygamy, that was secondary. Just like the FLDS church. See, Brigham Young was using the Perpetual Immigration Fund to human traffic Mormon converts from the East Coast that were poor and from Europe, so that they can come and build up an army against the United States. And it was human trafficking because they had to pay back the debt of the money that he used for the Perpetual Immigration Fund. And once they paid that back, they get American citizenship. That's Congress's role to grant citizenship, not Brigham Young. And so, yeah, those atrocities, they needed to shut down this criminal organization. He had established his kingdom in 1847. Then the United States took it away in 1848. Then Brigham Young plotted to overthrow the government by the Perpetual Immigration Fund in 1849. And then in 1851, he declared that polygamy is now to be practiced openly, not just in secret by his Danites. Sex slave trafficking, too. But it's all for Jesus. Ends justify the means. It's okay to commit a crime as long as it's for Jesus. Right? Church is different than all these other apostates. Because Brigham Young's not apostate. Right? He's the true successor. And Joseph Smith is just wrong. He's wrong about who the Christ is. He's wrong about the name of the church. He's wrong about who visited him for the second vision. He's wrong about our Christ. He's wrong about gold plates. It's golden. He's wrong. The Book of Mormon is not in the learning of the Jews. It's another testament of Jesus. Joseph is wrong. So we have to correct him. We have to change him. We have to alter him. We have to replace him. We have to remove him. We have to forge documents on his behalf because he's wrong. That's not abominable. Right? It's all for Jesus. Mm-hmm.